All right, express the following angles measured in terms of pi. How do we do that?
Pi on 3.
Times by? Oh, well, in terms of, yes, so, okay, maybe I'll go through a harder one, like something like this.
180 over pi?
Yes, so that would be times by something over something. Remember that quantity is equals to 1, right? And then the unit that we want is radian. So we times it by pi first and then over 180. Okay, remember the unit that we want always goes on top. Okay, so when you do that, so pi over 180 is pi is the same as 180, so that will be equals to 1. So we're not changing the value in any way, we're only changing the unit. Once you've got up to this point, you've got to do the cancellation there and then simplify. So that will be 33 equals to 33 times pi over 18. And then can you simplify further? Yes, divide by 3, 11, and this will be 6. So that will be 11 pi over 6. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to copy this down if you need to. No, you don't need to. Okay.
Is 144, that's like the same as like pi on 5, right?
144?
Yeah.
No, not quite.
Is it? Because
You do the same thing. It's 144 times by pi over 180, and you need to do the simplification. So yeah, no, it's definitely not pi on 5. Because pi is 180, if you divide it by 5, that's going to be 36 degrees. Yeah. So it will be pi minus pi on 5, which is 4 pi on 5.
is that like the answer for B?
You work it out. You work that one out, okay? Because if you get this in the exam, you won't get a nice angle like 60 or 120.
How do you simplify this one? This one's funky.
Just divide the two numbers 144 and 180. So divide both of them. Just find out that they're divisible by 3, for example, right? And divide 144 by 3, you get whatever the number here. Divide 180 by 3, you will get 60. And to divide by 3, this one, just take the first 2 digits. 14 divided by 3 is 4, remainder 2, so that will be 24. Divided by 3 is 8. But that's also not the simplest form, keep on dividing. Anyway, I'm not letting you guys copy that one down. Question 2, express in degrees the angles with the following radian measure. So now we want in degrees. So Sarah, what do we multiply by? Let's go with this one here, C. All right, C, 7 pi on 6. Sarah, what do I multiply that by?
180.
Yes, 180 degrees over pi. The 2 pi's cancel off, and then 6, 180, you can simplify these two, divide both by 6, this one is gone, this one will be 30. 7 times 30 is 210 degrees. Okay, so this is a technique to convert between radians and degrees. Alright, moving on. Question 7. On a set of axes, draw a unit circle centered at the origin and indicate the position on the unit circle corresponding to each of the following. I'll pick question 3. Oh, yeah, B3. So question B3. To do this, first remember this, when you see something like over 3, it means that the base angle, so that one is telling you base angle is pi over 3. Right, and now when you see these kind of angles, right, try to see whether you can get it to one of the 4 symmetry angles, so which is alpha, that's a basic one, pi minus alpha, pi plus alpha, or 2 pi minus alpha. Which version is B3?
Pi take alpha.
Pi take alpha, that's right. So I would test on the side here, what's pi take pi on 3? Well, this one is pi on 1, so that's just 3 pi on 3, minus pi on 3 is 2 pi on 3. Right, so I know that this one now is going to be, I'll write 2 pi on 3 equals to pi take pi on 3, and which quadrant is this?
The second.
The second quadrant, right? And remember, they must be symmetrical. So I'll put the value in there, pi minus pi on 3. That's it. But note that you're supposed to be drawing all of these on the same set of axes, yeah? You don't draw 4 unit circles, just the one, and then you label the points on the location of the unit circle on the right quadrant. Okay? Next, question 15b, question 3. Determine the value of sine theta and cos theta. So these are the harder questions. If you were to do, for example, question E, right? Sine of 11 pi on 2 and cos of 11 pi over 2. Now, when you see pi over 2, what's the base angle?
Pi on 2.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is pi on 2. Okay, it is a simple question, don't overthink it. Pi on 2 is how many degrees?
9.
90, right? If it's 90 degrees, it's essentially a quarter of a unit circle. And 11 pi on 2, it just means 11 quarters. And remember, when you have an odd number of pi on 2, it's essentially the top one or the bottom one. But you need to find out. So how do we find out? 11 pi on 2 is the same as 10 pi on 2 plus 1 pi on 2. Right? Why am I splitting it this way? Because this one can be simplified to 5 pi plus pi on 2. 5 pi is which point? Left or right?
Left.
Left, that's right. Odd numbers of pi always ends on the left, yeah? Because if you have, this is pi, and then this will be 3 pi, right? Pi, 2 pi, 3 pi. So 5 pi will always end on the point on the left, and then you plus another pi on 2, which means that will be a point at the bottom. Right? So this will be the final point, and because of that, sine of 11 pi on 2 is?
Sine is -1.
-1, correct. Cos is?
0.
0, that's right, because sine is here and cos is there. Cos would be 0. So you see, learning the unit circle method, you can, if you are comfortable with it, you can determine literally everything. Okay, so that's why I prefer to teach you guys the long way rather than like just the short way of remembering, because if you guys do a lot of these things, it will become second nature. Otherwise, you won't be able to. If you learn tricks, you have to learn like hundreds of tricks. If you mess up one, you're gonna lose like a few marks. So not worth it. Not worth it. Okay, next exercise 15C. Evaluate one of these things. I'll go through just the one, 11C. So remember the tangent line. Tangent line looks something like this, right? This is the tangent line. Okay, and 7 pi on 2 is, again, it's just a multiple of a quarter of a unit circle. It's either this one or this one. Either way,
top one, right?
it will be, so that'll be 6 3 pi plus, no, that'll be the bottom one. So once again, 7 pi on 2 is
3 pi, yeah.
Yes,
So, yeah.
6 pi on 2 plus pi on 2. And that would be 3 pi, and that's the point on the left, right? That's a point on the left, plus another pi on 2. So it's shifted, to the bottom point. So that's actually going to be the point at the bottom here. And when you draw the line from the center through that point, does it cut through the tangent line at all? No. Which means that that will be undefined, because it never cuts through the tangent line. In fact, anytime you get tangent of like an odd multiple of pi on 2, like 7 pi on 2, 5 pi on 2, it will be 90 degrees or 270 degrees, and it will be parallel.
How would you do that for, like, how the teachers explain like it's sine over cos? How do you do that?
Good question. So if you were to use the other method of using this as sine of 7 pi on 2 over cos of 7 pi on 2, what's sine of 7 pi on 2? Sine of this value here.
-1.
-1. Sarah, what is cos of 7 pi on 2? Remember, it's this angle here. And this is the cos axis. 0. Can you divide by 0?
No.
So that's why it's undefined. Okay, so in both ways you will get undefined, but if you use the tangent line, it just gets a little bit faster, I think. All right, most of these questions, right, it's like 1 point, 1 mark, okay, in the exam. They're not going to give you like 2 or 3 marks for these questions. Like they'll give you 3 questions, 1 mark each, max. So don't worry too much about it. As long as you get the right answer, you get the mark. So exercise 15E, they give you sine x, cos theta, and tangent alpha. So let's work out, I'll work out question C. Oh, no, tangent. Okay, I'll work out something else. Sine, question E. So E, sine of 360 minus x degrees, right? So 360 minus x, which quadrant is this one on?
The second. The fourth, sorry.
The fourth quadrant, yes. That's like 2 pi minus theta, right? So that would be this quadrant here. This is 360 minus x, right? Degrees. And okay, so you want the sine value, which is going to be negative something.
Negative. Isn't it just negative 0.7?
Yes, correct. It is negative 0.7. It's negative of, okay, so how you write this is equals to negative sine x degrees. Okay, so you make it like negative or positive of the sine of the base angle. So that would be the best way of writing it, and then you write down the answer, negative 0.7. That's it. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys are good with the trigonometry stuff, when we do the harder questions later in Unit 3, you'll find out, oh, it's actually not too bad. Given that you guys still remember everything at that point. Hopefully. Okay, next, 15F, write down the exact values of these ones. So let's pick something a bit more fun. Okay, let's see. Question E. 2E. Cos of 5 pi over 4. So,
Third quadrant.
Isn't it 1 over square root 2?
okay, we'll see. We'll see. So cos of this is cos of pi plus pi on 4, right? Any question here?
No.
No? Sarah? Okay. So that, which quadrant is this?
That's third.
That's the third quadrant. On the cos axis?
Negative 1.
Yes, negative 1 over square root 2. Okay. That's negative cos of the base angle pi on 4. How do we find out cos of pi on 4?
It's your triangles.
It's the triangles. Yes, that's right. I'll make you guys repeat it until it becomes second nature. Okay. So this angle is pi on 4, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, and sine cos actually the same. So that'll be negative 1 over square root 2.
Is 1 over the square root of 2 the same as like, is it 2 over the...
Yes, I get what you're talking about. So some schools, actually in most textbooks, they would prefer to write it as, so what they're doing here is they're multiplying, they want to rationalize the denominator. So they basically want to make the denominator a whole number. So they times by square root 2, both top and bottom. Okay? And what's bottom? Square root 2 times square root 2? It's just 2. Right? So 2 square root, then when they multiply each other, it's just a number. Do you know why? You guys have learned index law. What is square root 2 in terms of power?
1
over
or
2.
2 to the power of 1 over 2.
Yeah, right? So if you have root 2 times square root 2 is 2 power half times 2 power half. And when you multiply these two, what do you do with the power?
Cancel it out.
You add the power, okay? Which is what? 2 power 1, which is 2.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah? So that's why when you multiply 2 square root, you get just the number. Alright, so that would just be minus of square root 2 over 2. And yes, they are the same. So Sarah, if you can remember this step, do this step as well. So this is normally the more accepted value because the denominator is rationalized. I don't teach it on too much because I just want the student to get to this point, and that's normally good enough. But if you can, get to the final one, where the bottom is positive. It's just root 2, not a square root 2. Okay, any question?
No.
No? Alright, moving on. Write down the exact values of these ones. So, okay, I'll pick... Alright, I'll pick this one here. Question C. 13 pi on 6. So, tangent. Charlie?
1 over square root 3.
Well, wait, I want to know the method more than the answer.
So first you find the sine of pi on 6, which is 1 over 2, divided by square root 3 on 2, which is the cos. Okay. And then you flip the cos around, so then you get 2 over 2 times square root 3, which is just 1 over square root 3.
Okay, that is one method. Let me show you guys another method. So tangent
Third quadrant.
is well, actually the first thing you should do is note that 13 is more than 2 pi.
Oh yeah, first. Wait. Yeah, first.
Well, if you see that 13 pi over 6 is more than 2 pi, do you see that it's more than 2 pi?
Yeah.
Do you know why it's more than 2 pi, Sarah?
It's 12.
Yes, that's right. Correct. 2 pi is 12 pi on 6, so you subtract 2 pi, or if you can, subtract straight away 12 pi on 6. Actually, I'll write subtract 2 pi. Alright, so you subtract 2 pi first because then the tangent will be of the same angle. So that'll be 13 pi on 6 minus 12 pi on 6, which would be tangent of 1 pi on 6. When you get to this point, get to the triangle straight away. Don't do sine and cos. Okay, so tangent, you can determine that straight away. Pi on 6 is this one, 1 to square root 3. SOHCAHTOA, tangent is opposite over adjacent equals square root 3 over 1. Square root 3 over 1, which is square root 3. Does it make sense? Yeah?
How's it?
SOHCAHTOA.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Opposite over adjacent. Okay? So if you use this triangle, you can get straight to the final answer rather than having to do the sine divided by cos thing.
Isn't it 1 over the other way around?
Opposite over adjacent.
Opposite
Is root 3. So opposite of an
okay,
angle is the side that the angle looks at, right? The angle will look at the side that's opposite of it, which is square root 3. And adjacent is the side that makes up the angle, apart from the hypotenuse.
Isn't it 30 degrees, right?
Yeah.
Oh yes, you're right.
Boy.
My bad. I'm still half asleep.
That's alright, Koi.
My bad. Yes, I would have lost like so many marks in the exam if I did that. Okay, so yes, you're correct. The opposite is actually 1, and then the adjacent is square root 3. Yeah, I'm definitely half asleep.
Sorry.
Alright, so my bad. It is 1 over square root 3. Good call, guys. Good call. Good call.
We got you, Koi, no worries.
Thank you. When my student correct me, I know that they are learning things. Okay, moving on. 15G. Sketch the graph of each of the following, showing one complete cycle. State the amplitude and period. I'll go to question I. Okay, 3I. Chapter 15G, 3I. Okay, y equals to negative 2 sine of theta over 3. What do we find first?
Your amp.
Your amp, yes, which is?
2.
2, good. Don't say negative 2, please. Alright, the negative is only refracted, so reflection. Right, reflected. And then period is?
2 pi over 1 over 3.
Yeah, 2
6
pi,
pi.
yes, divided by 1 over 3, which is 6 pi. So then a quarter of a period would be 6 pi on 4, that's 3 pi on 2. And there's no translation in this one, so far it's still easy. You don't actually need to do anything else for this one. Actually, when you guys learn the whole translation in class, pay attention to how the teacher explains it, right? And compare that method with my method and see if you guys can actually improve on my method or whatever you guys have been doing so far.
We haven't really done translations yet.
Okay.
Have we?
No,
We did it last lesson.
Yeah.
they just can't. Miss Gary just spoke about like what the translations like mean. So if it has like
We have 2 lessons on it, I think.
yeah.
Okay, and how did you guys learn it at school?
The teacher does it way different.
I know there's like the C over B thing, which is like.
See,
Do you use that? I don't use it.
I don't like the way that they teach it. I like Chloe's way.
Yeah. Because they don't do the 1 over 4 thing. They just do get like the shape. And then they do it. And then they just randomly go in.
Oh, yeah.
But it's easier to like 1 and 4 because then when they ask questions about it later, then you just have it like right in front of you what the answer is instead of having to work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our teacher like doesn't she draws it first and then she'll label.
Yeah. But it's hard if you to do that because you don't necessarily understand what you're doing.
No, you don't really understand what you're doing. Yeah.
She can do it because she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing with most teachers, that they can do it, but whether they can teach it is a different story. But anyway, okay. Well, as long as you guys see, that's why you guys need to learn different methods, right? And so you can have compare for yourself which is the preferred method for you guys.
This way.
This way.
Yes, and then keep on doing it, right? Keep on learning
My
it.
graphs look so pretty in my book.
Yeah, it's definitely more neat.
And I get all my homework done in class because I'm not listening to the teacher. But I can hear it in the background.
So yeah, just when she asks, how do you know this? She'd be like, my sister taught me or whatever, you know. Because the teachers don't like to hear that you learn from a different teacher most of the time. Except for me though, I do want to improve my method. So if you learn a better method, that's how I got to these methods because I learned it from different kinds of teachers at school. It's called a growth mindset, guys. Go back and look it up.
Yeah.
The trust tree.
What's that?
What's that?
Yeah.
The
What is,
trust tree, you learn it when you do like drama in like year 7.
isn't that the
Yeah.
safety net?
No, it's the trust tree.
Interesting. I might look that up.
No, don't let anybody fall off the tree.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay, anyway, so you've got quarter period and then the sine graph. This is reflected, which means, well, there's no translation. So you've got your 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the period is 6 pi, so it will end at 6 pi here. That would be 3 pi, and that would be 3 pi over 2. So that would be about like 369 pi over 2. Okay, so the reason why I'm going straight to the 3 pi instead of the 6 pi on 2 is because you guys know what it means. Huh? Because it's simplified, yes. Yeah. So if you draw a simplified graph, a graph with simplified coordinates, it looks cooler.
Yeah.
Even though technically the way you did it is you can think of it this way, right? But yes, if you can do it simplified, it's cooler and it's more complex. But anyway, it's actually not a good graph. This one has to be a bit more equivalent. 3 pi on 2. There, okay, that's better. So sine means that start in the middle and then reflected goes down, middle, up, and middle. And then I'll put in the amplitude, which is 2. So it goes down to -2. That's 0. So down there, there, and there.
Oh. That third one looks a bit dodgy.
Yes, you're correct. The third one does look a bit dodgy. So I will fix it up. There you go.
Beautiful.
Better. A little bit better. Okay, and they ask you for only one complete cycle, so we just draw up to that point. State the amplitude and period. Yep, it's already done here. So yeah, but look, when you get a question like this, right, make sure you write at the end amplitude equals 2 and period equals 6 pi. Okay, box it up. Teachers want just easy stuff. If they see a lot of workings and it's something that they don't understand, because most of the teachers don't understand the whole like quarter period thing, they will be confused and they might miss it. You don't want them to miss the.
Oh, we got our assignment, Chloe.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Wait. Have you guys talked it yet?
No, we're talking about a Monday.
What country did you get?
Mexico.
I got Guatemala.
I
Did you get
think
Guatemala?
I got Guatemala.
Can I have a look at your assignment?
Actually, wait, it's on my phone. Why am I getting my computer out?
No, wouldn't you have?
When did you get this assignment?
It got handed
Thursday.
out. Yeah, we
So
haven't
this-
like
But
talked
we
about
haven't
it.
like started or like going through it yet. We each get. What I've heard is you each get a country.
I got Guatemala.
Can you email me the assignment now?
Yeah.
I think it's on the exponential code, like.
Yeah.
exponential-
We have to like.
Graph the code.
Yeah.
So basically, you get given your country, and then they give you all the data in an Excel sheet
Oh,
for
do
your
they?
country. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on sector
Mm-hmm.
in the assessments, and so basically, it says that you're trying to figure out the growth over the 2 years in an exponential graph, and then you have to figure out when 93% of the population would have contracted COVID because that's when herd immunity is achieved. And so you have once you figure out what your equation is, then you
Mhm.
figure out when 93% of your total population.
Okay,
Has,
I see. All right. Yeah, standard assignment. I'll give you guys something to get a head start. So I might change the content today. Actually, I may not go to the new one yet.
Yes.
Email me the assignment. So when I finish explaining everything, feel free to continue. Just start working on that while I prepare a few things for you guys. Oh yeah, that was the last question. Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Yep, that's it. We can get started on it. In the meantime, let me just print out something.
I swear we've done so much more.
Have we? Oh, yes, we have done a lot more. HIJKN.
Koi, what's
Do
your
they
email?
get assessed?
They do get assessed, but I'm giving you guys a little bit at a time. So next week is when you get the set too.
You
Yes.
get the
What's your
chillax
email?
bit.
admin@atar.academy.
See, but I thought when I got Guatemala, I thought I was gonna have to research,
No, it's all on.
and I would have
There's an
cried.
Excel sheet, a link to it.
Because some people got like Australia, and I was,
I wanted to get
because I think your teacher chooses the country.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
nobody in your class has double ups, but like in another class there's going to be a double up.
That's
And then yeah, see all the data's in here for like each country, and it's literally there's 1,000 and something like levels of it. It's like over 3 years.
so.
Actually, Australia's more.
So the teachers have to go through and make that. Unlucky.
Yeah. Well, we have to do the whole assignment so they can get over it. But yeah, it's due on the 24th of March, the final. So it's like a month.
Yeah. 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Could you also get 4 weeks for the final assignment? Oh.
When's it due, sorry?
The 24th of March. I'm pretty sure, like the 23rd of March, something like that. I know it's due on a Friday. It could. I feel like it's the last week of school or something, or it's like the second week. Yeah, it's really fun.
Okay, guys, get started on the revision sheet.
I finished it. How do you do this for me? I'm not very good at the decimal ones. I don't get how.
Turn that into 9/10.
Oh, so you just sat there and did it. Good sheet.
If you're done,
Like 9 pi over 10.
yes, right? Because 0.9 is 9/10. And then you do the same thing times by,
Pi over.
you want degrees. So it will be the opposite.
Oh wait, I don't put this here. It's just 9/10 times pi over 1.
No, so you have to have the angle, which is 9 pi over 10.
Okay.
And then you times by, because the unit you want is degrees. So you put the 180 on top,
Oh,
because
okay,
that's 180 degrees over pi. Then the pi cancels out. And then if you're done, Charlie, check your answer at the back.
For 2
And make sure you put a tick.
for 24. 20. Are you showing all working out, Charlie?
I got 2.
Hmm?
I feel like that's wrong. Got 2.
9/10 times by,
It says 162 in the back.
yes, because at this point here, over 10. You missed the over 10.
No, but I cancelled it.
Oh yeah,
So
over
it's-
18, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so the pi and pi cancel, so you still got 9 times 18. Right?
But it would, and then I divided 9 pi, like by 9, and then 18. Oh, no.
You can,
yeah.
yes, yeah. Because they are on the same side of the fraction. Okay, let's see.
Koi,
Mhm.
the 3D on this one.
Yeah.
Do I just do like the 180 thing for this as well? Or. That's already in like radians.
So these are the ones that you need to go the equals to tangent of the angle minus 2 pi. So you need to reduce that angle to within 0 and 2 pi to see which quadrant it is in. Because right now 15 pi on 6 is way more than 2 pi.
Yeah.
It's more than 12 pi on 6, right?
Yeah.
So you would need to subtract 2 pi and see what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that would turn out into 3 pi on 6, which is pi on 2, which is 90 degree. Yeah, so yeah, 90 degrees, so yes, it would be undefined. Sarah, any question?
If you have like 10, can't you move 10 around? Or like do you just always keep it on the one side?
So the tangent line, right? It's always on the right hand side of the unit circle. Yeah, always there. That's the definition of a tangent line, yeah, for the unit circle.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
How much of this task sheet have you guys read? Like, have you guys read this whole approach to problem solving?
No.
Well, that's kind of like the same thing as what's on all our assignments for search problems.
Yeah.
But I read the context and like what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, because it's basically the same.
And the date it's due.
Yeah, because the rest is the same. Have you guys, maybe not just this time, but like out of all time, have you guys ever read the criteria?
Yeah, I like
sheet?
to highlight keywords. And
Yes, that's right. Yes, do you two do that?
No.
You gotta start doing that. Okay, you need to read through this and look, if you're not with me, you read through this. If you're with me, I'll give you this sheet. So this is the accumulation of like years of doing assignments from different schools, and they have very similar criteria. If you do all of this, then this is how one of my students got 20 out of, two of them got 19 and 20 out of 20. Just follow the structure, but you've got to follow the structure. It's a lot of work, but at least you will ensure you get the maximum out of it.
Do not disturb, Blake. No, am I going crazy? No. Okay, sorry.
No, it's only 6 pages.
No, I was really
You're not
confused
missing
because
anything.
there's 3, but I found it. I have PTSD from not seeing the last one.
That was funny.
It was not funny.
It was not funny.
I
at the
so
time.
could have gotten 25.
It was not funny. It was not funny at the time. It was not funny during. But it's
It was
funny.
not funny during. I cried.
It's funny in hindsight.
Hindsight for you, maybe.
Lesson learned. Always check how many pages there are on an exam.
Okay, alright, I think I've got it. Okay guys, I'll pause everyone here, have a look. Let's go through your assignment. And again, this is still recorded, so it'll be good for you guys to, if you guys need to look back at it later. So for your assignment, right, based on what you have known so far, so not Charlie, but anyone else, explain to me what do you think are the steps to do in this assignment?
Oh, sorry, 94, not 93.
Alright.
Yeah, either way. Blake?
Well, I haven't actually read it yet.
Why not?
You should read it on the day you receive it. Even if you have not starting anything, reading it is a start, okay? So take some time to read it. Charlie, you can actually read this one instead.
So where would I start?
Yeah.
Graphing it on Excel.
Graphing what on Excel?
The data.
Where'd you get the data from? Okay, alright. So data is from data sheet. So see, these are the little things that you need to start writing down. So not everything that I'm writing down is something that you should also write down. Okay, and then that would give you an idea on what to do, because sometimes, not even sometimes, most of the time when you get a task like a problem solving task like this, where it's supposed to be a big task, you have to break it down, otherwise it feels very overwhelming. I don't know where to start, but as you write down what you know, then you can find out, okay, what else do I not know? Okay, so data from data sheet and then graph on Excel. All right, let's see graph data. What else? What else can we do here?
That's the only way you could model the data, right?
Yeah. If you are in doubt, always look at the resources. Why do you think the resources are there? Because they want you to use these resources. Okay, that's the reason why it's there. If you're not using these resources, you're not maximizing the potential of your assignment. So this one, copy data from Excel to TI Inspire emulator. Okay, that's something that you will have to do. If they put a resource in there, most likely that's what you have to do. All right. Next would be exponential regression with the TI Inspire, and then that would be, yeah, you can watch these YouTube videos for that content. So there are two things. So it looks like there are two things that you will most likely have to do, and I haven't even I don't even know what your teacher has given you guys yet, but I have a feeling that you will need to somehow use the TI Inspire emulator, which is the PC one, you download the software, right, on the computer. And you have to use your license, your actual
separated license. On the computer.
On the computer, yes, yeah. That calculator on the computer is the one that you have to use for your assignment. Once your assignment for Unit 3 next year is done, you can forget about it, uninstall it. Okay, because after the assignment for Unit 3 is done, there's no more assignment, and if there's no more assignment, you actually need to practice with the physical graphics calculator. Because that's the one that you use in the exam, not the software one. But the software one has to be there until the assignment is over. Yeah, because that's the one where you will screenshot your graph on the graph calculator and screenshot like equations and stuff like that in order to put into your assignment. Okay, so does anyone have the graphics calculator, the TI Inspire emulator, this thing installed yet?
I have it set up.
You have it set up?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So if anyone has any questions setting that up, ask Blake.
I already have that.
Okay, so yeah, if you do, then that's fine.
I'm the IT guy.
So yes, Charlie, what you missed is basically the resources, how to copy data from Excel to the TI emulator. The resources are the things that they normally expect you to do. That's why they put the resources there. So always watch and learn all the resources first, and then you have an idea, this is most likely what I have to do. Okay, and this is how I can do it. So go back, watch those YouTube videos. Now, moving on, collect data from the total. So the task is, I'm going to just help you guys out a bit there, highlight the keyword. Investigate the number of coronavirus cases. So collect data on the total confirmed cases per day. All right, total confirmed cases per day for the country, which is whatever the country you're given. And then create a model to represent the number of coronavirus cases for the country over time. So that's the model you guys are creating. Okay, and then the report is outline the finding based on the data, more explain, how you develop and refine your model. Okay, justify your model with appropriate graphical, so they want graphical and mathematical reasoning. So they want to see graphs and they want to see math, equations, calculations, whatever. Show how it represents the raw data appropriately. So another thing is, when you look at a task sheet like this, look at the keyword, like the verb, okay? Investigate, collect, create, explain, and show. Right? Those are the actions that you have to do.
What is this model? Is that just like your graph?
It is a combination of your graph and the equation. Yeah.
How do you make like an equation if you just have like the numbers? Because it's kind of like there's lots of numbers.
Correct.
We got on
So it does it for us?
Yes. Watch the YouTube video.
It has to be crazy. Okay.
No, watch the YouTube video. Exponential regression is essentially given a bunch of data, the graphics calculator will fit a line to that data, the best line. You don't need to know how to do it, as long as you can explain how you use
we don't need to know how to like graph it. We just have to explain what the graph is showing. Yes. You don't need to manually graph it. This is a technology assignment. No. Just use a graphics calculator. I was getting nervous.
Yeah, no. So the kind of calculations, normally you have to think of what kind of calculations. I'll give you a hint. See this one? Show how it represents the raw data appropriately.
So
once you get like your equation, would you compare it to the raw data?
Yes. Yeah. Once you get your equation, how do you compare it to the raw data? Remember, raw data is like points, right? Something like that, right? Yeah, if you get the equation, it may not fit it perfectly. It may like miss a few, go through a few, right? And at each point, so note that at each point you would have a certain x value. So this could be like, January 2020, for example, right? You would use that value, and the t value, the time could be, depends on how you define it. Okay, depends on how you define the graph. The t could be the number of months after the 1st of January, after the beginning of 2020, which means this one, the x value is equals to 1, right? You sub these x values into the graph, and then you get what that point is. You compare that to the original data point, the raw data point.
What do you mean?
So where the
line is. So then you figure the uncertainty, or what?
Sort of, yes, that's the idea. So you find out the model will give you the certain number of cases, and you compare that to the actual number of cases on that date. That's the idea. So that's what you are supposed to do by show how it represents the raw data appropriately. Is this point here? Okay, that's what you're supposed to do for that. So that's why, again, look at all of the keywords, right? Determine when the country would reach herd immunity. So determine. This is another. I'll use the same color. This is another calculation, right? You have to determine when it will reach herd immunity, and herd immunity is up here. 94% of the population must be infected. Okay, so basically you find out, you're connecting, put 2 and 2 together, just find out when 94% of the population will be infected. That's it.
Yeah. So it's just like an exponential growth equation with like.
Just solve it.
94 over 100 times.
Yes, that's right. Well, you equate that to 94 over 100, and you find out what the time is. So it's simply just use the graphics calculator. That calculation is like the easiest one. Yeah. The hardest thing to do in this assignment is actually to make sure you write down everything that they want you. So all of the keyword there: investigate, collect, create, explain, show, determine, and justify. One is justify your model here. So that's why always study the task sheet, focus on the verb on the task sheet. They would normally describe what you have to do, okay? Because they literally say your task is to do this, do that, do this, do that. If you don't do all of that, you're not going to get a max. Okay, that's essentially what you're supposed to do. So that's why the task sheet is normally very, very short, because they want to see different people's interpretation of how to do just the one task. And so investigation should discuss the validity of the model in the long run. So note the keywords here. Discuss is what you need. So basically you need to talk about it, right? And now the keyword is in the long run. So just think about what happens in the long run. Okay, and any necessary refinement applied to demonstrate yada yada. So in the long run, what they're saying is this exponential model, right? My guess, okay.
Is it accurate enough to?
Sorry?
Is it like accurate enough?
No, my guess is that at some point the number of the predicted amount will be 100%. So anything after that point is invalid.
Yeah.
Because you can't get 110% of the population infected. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And then would it start to like decline eventually as well?
It won't start to decline because it's an exponential model. It never goes down.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about like decline as in like the actual case of decline because of the... Yes, then that's a good point too, yes.
So you just talk about like how that's not shown in the graph as well, because eventually like...
Yeah, eventually it will start going down. Yeah, that's good, yeah. So that's why in the long run is a keyword. There are many, many ways of interpreting that. Now, note that sharing ideas is okay, but never share your assignment, okay? Because the reason is there will be many students with the same idea, like what you said, right? Like, oh yeah, number of cases will go down because vaccines and stuff. Everyone knows about vaccines, and many people would think about, oh yeah, that causes the number of infected people to go down. That makes sense. And the thing about like what I just said, where the graph will exceed 100%, that also doesn't make sense. Many people will know that. So sharing ideas is okay, but the way you write that idea down is always different. I would teach a class of 4 students and give them the exact same steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 steps to do the assignment. All 4 assignments turns out different. Okay, the way they write it turns out all completely different. Like, you can't tell they come from the same source. Right? Okay, you literally can't tell. Until I got one class where one of them shared their assignment, 2 of them shared their assignment with the weaker student, and the weaker student just copy and paste it and change up, like instead of saying, the graph rises up, it's like the data goes up in the graph. I'm just like, I'm not stupid. I can see that it's a copied over from the other assignment, okay? And he kept on denying, like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it happen. If the teacher let it go, then you're fine. If the teacher, wanted to call you out, then you're gonna get called out.
If you write all that stuff in these observations or assumptions, or is that at the end?
Good question. So now that you guys understand what to do for the assignment, look at the sheet I just gave you guys. Let me walk through that.
Would you be able to print out that first page?
I'll send all the notes to you guys, and this is being recorded.
Alright.
Yeah.
What do you mean print out?
The notes, right?
You have the task sheet.
No, but like with the annotation. But he's sending it to us.
Yes, I'll send you guys the notes after the lesson. Let me find where that is. Okay. Little apologies, guys. You guys don't get the colored version because this printer hasn't been updated yet.
It's alright.
So you don't get the nice colors that I've prepared. But that's okay. Speed is more important. You guys need to get started on the assignment ASAP.
Do teachers check your word count, or do they just
Assume they do. Assume they do. Don't never assume the other one.
They don't count tables.
Yep.
Isn't that so dumb?
Oh, okay. Now the thing about not counting tables is because normally when they say don't count tables, it's because tables includes data. If you put words in the table, those are counted.
But also if it looks like 2000. How many words is 2000? I think it.
Something like that,
It
yeah.
looks like 2000, and this also has a page limit. So if it's over 10, then they're gonna assume that it's.
Yeah, it's over 2000, and they will start doing the counting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if the number of pages is not too long, then in saying that you should never assume they don't check their word count, but you can sometimes the reality is sometimes teachers are lazy. They are marking so many assignments. They have to read so many things. If it looks good, they're not gonna bother. Especially for this assignment because it doesn't count towards data. Nobody cares. Okay, it's only formative. You guys should care. Nobody isn't. The teachers don't really care what you do in this one. They just have to do it so that you get practice. It's just a numbers game. Like the good students, they'll get good marks, and bump up the average of the school. Bad students, well, too bad, and can't do much about it. But for you guys, you better care a lot about this assignment. This is the last one you get as a practice before the main assignment. Next year? No, end of this year. Sorry, end of this year. You're in grade 11 now. So many classes. All right. So this is your last practice assignment. Do it well, get 20 out of 20, and then you might be able to get 20 out of 20.
Also, I know, last time I did the assignment, I didn't get in trouble, but she told me, the format of mine was not correct. I don't know if that means you can get marked down, but...
Email me your assignment. I'll have a look.
She just told me my, margins were too narrow, because I don't like the normal margins, and it looks like I'm trying to just,
Cut down the pages, yeah. Which means you can't do that. Yeah. If it's about the margin, then yeah, just use a standard margin. Yeah. Because I have seen assignments where they put the margin down, but to save the page count. But yeah, teachers generally they feel a bit what's this student trying to do? Because it's trying to get out of the norm kind of thing. Yeah, it's trying to be smart, trying to be smart, not actually be smart and do a good assignment. Yeah, so that's why as long as you have the word count within the word limit, just stay to the rules, stick to the rules. It's the safest. Okay. Anyway, let me walk you guys through this PSMT structure and tips here. So I'll walk through the general idea first. Note that the first thing I give you is the final checklist. The reason why I give you the final checklist first, even though you're supposed to do this one last before you submit your assignment, 4 weeks later, is because you have to keep these things in mind. Alright, so you have to keep these in mind while writing your assignment. And then when you scroll down, so have a look at the screen, guys. The introduction. If I were to scroll down on this, the next page would be the introduction. So then that's when I will give you tips on each of the main headings. The introduction, what to do there, formulate what to do there, and inside it there will be assumptions and observation. If you notice, right, this structure is basically the structure of your assignment. Introduction, formulate, and then inside formulate there will be assumption and observation, and then there will be mathematical equations and concept, and then you jump to the next big section, solve. All right, so solve is always different for every single assignment. How you structure that out is entirely up to the assignment. After solve, it's just the evaluate. So there is a thing called for real world design assignment. This one doesn't apply to you guys, right? Because this one you will get it most likely end of this year. For the unit 3 assignment, they will ask you to design something using calculus. That's the history. That's basically every single year from JPC that I've seen so far for the past 3 years since ATA started. So then after that will be evaluate and then conclusion. Now let me walk you guys through the checklist here, the initial checklist here. Have a look.
Let's do it.
The report is a documentation, not a statement. So documentation means you need a reason or justification. Okay. So for example, see this statement there? A quadratic equation was used for this section. Or for you guys, an exponential equation was used to model the data. That's a statement, right? You don't want a statement, you want a documentation. So for you guys, it would be like the exponential equation was used to model the data because the growth of the COVID will be depending on, okay, I don't want to say exactly what it is because you guys will be copying that. You have to explain it in your own way, but it will because something.
Yeah.
Right? Could be because it rises exponentially, or because it rises rapidly and then it tapers over time, which follows an exponential model. Don't copy exactly that, but it's something like that. You have to say because.
Would you say that sort of stuff in like your assumptions, like you're using a like exponential growth equation for this?
Whenever you make an initial statement, you have to put the reason why you make that statement. And later on, if you mention back about the exponential graph, you say, oh yeah, the exponential graph is this, right? But so note that this point refers to the report. So everywhere in the report, you have to document, not just state, right? Because okay, what's the reason behind this? The reason is if you just say, oh, I'm gonna use exponential equation to the teacher, when I read it, I'm like, where did Blake get this from? Probably just from a friend. He just heard, oh, exponential equation. Okay, I'm just gonna use that. They don't understand why. Okay, what they want to see is the why. Do you understand why you're doing something? Okay. For example, one of your thingy would be the linear exponential regression thing. If you don't understand what it is, you better look that up. You don't need to explain that in details. That's not the point. But you gotta explain that, exponential regression is a technique that does blah, right? And because we have, since the data are provided in an exponential form, exponential regression will be used to create a model for the data. See, there's already a reason, right? Because the data is in exponential form, and exponential regression, helps you do whatever. You can paraphrase the videos that they gave you guys, the YouTube videos. Watch them. Watch all the videos in the resources section, okay? And note how they explain it, because how they explain in videos is normally they normally use mathematical language.
Why would you talk about that stuff in the assignment?
I'll get to that in a second. Right? Very good question. I'll get to that when we actually go through the structure of the assignment. For now, let's just focus on these are the main things that you have to keep in mind first, and then I'll get through the main content later. So no spelling grammar error, obviously, but the tip is Grammarly or Quillbot. Those two really OP. Have you guys heard of it?
I've used both.
You've used both? Yeah. So now you know. Look it up, Quillbot, check it in there, and they can rewrite certain sentences for you. A bit of a cheat, but it's technology, right? Don't need to mention using these two, yeah? The teachers don't need to know. They only need to see the end result. Correct mathematical symbols and always use. So the idea is make sure you always use the right symbol, okay? Because sometimes when you type into your calculator, you might type the asterisk to multiply, but in your assignment, always use the proper multiplication symbol.
Yeah.
Alright, so be very careful. I will be looking through your assignment before it is due, before even the first draft is due. But yeah, I'll check through that as well. But make sure you get that one. The first version should look good. Word limit is stated at the end. You do that at the end. All graphs are labeled and referenced. So this is like my personal reference. My personal preference. The reason is this is what university asks you to do. Okay, this is the university requirement, and the table or label, the reference normally is not counted towards a word count, so you don't worry too much about it. Now, What does it mean by label and reference? So labels is above tables but below figures or graph. What does that mean? It means that if you have a table, so if you have like a table like that, right? A table of data, whatever explanation, calculations, you put on top table 1 and then put like a label on your table or like data or COVID data of whatever country. That's a label for the table. Now, and that table 1 needs to be mentioned in the paragraph above. This is really professional. Okay, this is a very professional way of doing it. If you do it this way, you can keep on doing it in university, and you get basically perfect score for all of the layouts. And the reason why this is important is because it logically makes sense. It is common sense in business world. Okay, it's common sense when you go and work, you write a report for your superior. This is common sense, but common sense is not common. Right? Common sense. Not everyone knows about what common sense is. But the idea is that if you talk about so before showing table 1, you would write in table 1 the data for COVID will be shown, and inside the table 1 it will show the data for each year and for each month, and the difference in data point is by month, for example. Right? So you talk about the table first and then you show the table. Why is that the case? When someone reads your assignment, they read the text. That's why there's a word count, right? They read the text, they don't jump straight to the tables and the figures. The tables and the figures are only there to support the paragraphs that you write. Does that make sense? They read the paragraph. If you take out all the tables and figures, the main flow of the document, aka your word count, right? The main words that count towards the word count should make sense. Okay? They should make sense. If they don't make sense, because I've seen assignments where students are assumption and observation, I'm just gonna chuck that in this table here, right? And they don't say anything about the table. So some teachers will let it go if they don't actually have professional training on these things. They will not notice it. They will just let it go. But others will be like, that's actually not that's not the smooth way of making your assignment. So when you read an assignment that's written so well, it just flows, right? It reads like a story. When you read to them, you're like, oh, okay, I actually learned something. That's actually pretty cool. This guy, if you understand the math, like, oh yeah, this guy actually did really well in this assignment. You don't know why. This is one of the reasons why. Okay, this is one of the very specific things that you do that will make your assignment flows a lot better, because when they read, be like, oh, okay, in this section, assumption, I'm going to talk about the assumption and documentation and observations about the country, and the data for that country is documented in table 1, and then they see immediately underneath table 1 assumption and observation, and then they read table 1. It makes sense, because when you mention in table 1, they're like, oh, where's table 1? It's right there. Okay, so this is one of the little things I talk a lot about this because it makes your assignment flow so well that when the teacher reads it and they have no idea how to improve on it. That's when you get 20 out of 20. Okay, I will give you guys a 20 out of 20 assignment. I'll find it after this. So yeah, so I'll give you guys a 20 out of 20. I've got that version, but the math is quite difficult. The math is something you haven't seen yet, but just see how they do it, how he wrote the structure. Okay. Alright, anyway, so that's the one. No table should go over 2 pages. Again, it's just presentation. The reason behind that is it looks messy. Okay, your assignment looks messy, so you need to be a little bit creative on how you do your table so that it doesn't go over 2 pages. So that needs a bit of creativity depending on your assignment. All mathematical terms and expressions are used correctly. So this is just saying that when you differentiate, we haven't learned about this one yet, but when you exponential, it should be correct. If you say, this is the exponential equation, you put the logarithmic equation, you're gonna have marked down for that straight away. Okay, so that's what they meant by accurate mathematical use. Okay, and when you talk about it, it must be accurate as well. So the calculations are normally easy to check. I can check your calculations, but sometimes if you read through it, it's like you might miss out on the explanation. Okay, now this one, does anyone use the normal heading 1 and heading 2? Do you guys know how to use that?
Yeah.
Good. Sarah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Never highlight and then increase the size by 2 points and then make it bold. No, always highlight and then just select heading 1 in the style. Yeah. If you want to update the heading, when you get to the assignment, if you want to update that, let me know. There is a way to update every single heading in the document, just right click and then properties and just change the style for heading 1. Okay, it changes for everything. It makes the formatting a lot more consistent. So always use the automatic styles. Never change up something by yourself. Okay, never even bold anything in your assignment. You don't normally do that for an assignment. Okay, just keep everything normal text. Heading style. Yeah, you may underline the table. So for example, like the one I showed earlier, this table 1 thing, you may change this style to underline, but I think that's about it. Okay. All right. Correct notations are used when referencing equations. So, yes, okay. This is a bit of a, don't know how to explain this, but you know when you type normally, you get fx, right? In like the text here, it looks like that. But what you want to see is like the mathematical, and then you update this one, mathematical fx. So basically, you highlight this stuff and then you alternate equal. This is the keyword here. Alternate equal. It turns that expression into a mathematical equation, an inline mathematical equation.
So like it makes it look all the fancy letters.
Yes, all fancy
That's
mathematical
pretty cool.
letters. Okay.
That's so helpful.
Yeah, because normally you have to go insert equation and then you type it in. But you can just type everything first, like the fx equals to x plus 2. You can just do like just type a normal. It will look a bit sus, like fx and then equals and then x and then plus and 2. It looks ugly like that, something like that, right? You highlight this thing, alternate equal, it turns into a fancy fx and then giving all the space and all of that stuff.
Alternate plus equal, alternate equal.
Alternate
They're the
equal.
same key.
The plus means
yeah,
combine them. Yeah, so you alternate equal.
Yeah.
Alright, and that's a shortcut for turning anything into an equation. That's also the shortcut to insert an equation, I think. Double check. But you guys should be using Microsoft Word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that will be the same one. Okay, so yeah, that's the trick to make all your notation look fancy. You never write the other one. Because some teachers, they definitely really don't like it. They will pick it out if they see it. I don't know how your teachers are, but for me, I will see it. Right? Because if not mathematical format, I will see it. No acronyms. Never use substitute. You have to use substitute. Never use just sub. Alright. No short forms in this because sub and substitute count towards one word in the word count. There's no point shortening it.
Yeah.
Okay. Always no acronyms. And then for anything that has a plural term in the criteria sheet, you need 3 points. For example, assumptions, at least 3. Observations, at least 3. Strengths and limitations. Anything you have an S in the criteria sheet, at least 3 to be safe. I know that plural means 2. Technically 2 is plural, but you give 3 or more if you want to hide them up. Okay, you gotta think about it. And when you guys start having the assignment, giving it to me, I can give you guys some feedback and some ideas on how to improve on it. Okay, that's how you gotta start your assignment like this weekend. Oh, today's Sunday, so today, essentially. Okay, today. All right. Does anyone use the appendix?
Me.
Yeah, so make sure you don't put any main content in the appendix. So your assumption is appendices don't get marked on. The safest assumption is teachers do not read the appendix.
I just try and put everything in the main
Word.
part.
Yeah, most of the time assignments you don't even need the appendix most of the time. However, some design assignments you might want to put something in the appendix. Do you guys know what the purpose of the appendix?
Isn't it just like extra information?
But you
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it.
It's not you don't want to talk about it.
Waste your work on like explaining or.
Why do you think people write reports in the real world? Why do you think people write
To
reports?
like explain something or prove a point.
Yes, explain something to prove a point to someone else. Right? Now, when that's someone else, when you write a report, that someone else is most likely your manager. Well, sometimes it's your colleague, but most likely it's your supervisor, manager, or your boss, CEO, whatever, right? Those people, they don't have time. Okay? They don't have time to just sit through 100 pages of thesis, for example. Those are the academics' jobs. So when you write in a report, right, you want to put all the main content in the main section. They read the main section. Sometimes they only skim through the main section. Now, at a certain point, if they're like, oh, this one is interesting, this one interesting, I want to read more about this. And oh wait, that's Appendix A. Now I'll go to Appendix A if they're interested in reading more about it. Okay, but that's why the appendix is there, so that people, if they want to find out more information about something, they can go to the appendix and find out more about it. Like for example, if you're talking about the data and be like, oh yeah, the modified data, I use different version, different graphs, whatever, but you only need to show like the final one. Okay, this is the final model that I'm using, for example. All the other ones can go into the appendix. If you give a lot of tries or so as you talk about it, sometimes teacher will be like, oh, I want to see how much say Charlie put effort into refining the model, and they might look at the appendix, right? But assume they don't. Okay, assume they don't. Okay, now moving on to the actual structure of the assignment. So introduction, you may write this first to get started, but it needs to be the last content you edit. So normally I tell my students, if you're so overwhelmed by the assignment, you go start with the introduction, but you do not start with the introduction. You start with the formulate and the solve. Okay, the introduction is something that you read, like people read first, but that's something that you write last. When you know about how your assignments are structured, what you did in the assignment, then you go back to write the introduction. Otherwise, if you write the introduction first, most likely you have to change it again later. Because at the beginning, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, let's be real. You don't know what exactly you will be doing in your assignment. There's no point writing the introduction. Did your teacher tell you this?
No.
Okay, well, I'm telling you this, so just do it.
Listen to you, Koi.
Thank you. Because all this content is actually university standard. If you go to like UQ, or maybe, I'm not sure QUT mentioned this, but UQ, most people at UQ, they will mention like the whole, like, do not write your introduction first, write it last, get straight to the meat of the assignment. So yeah, so the introduction, I'm not going to bother with it. You guys go back and read the note for yourself. Okay, formulate. Formulate is the idea of, okay, planning out your assignment. Okay, you got to plan out your assignment, what you will be doing, and in order to do that, I put in some guiding questions here. Go back, think about it. What is the task asking you to do? How will you break down the problems, and what concepts? What have you observed? What assumption? Do you guys know the difference? Moving on, do you guys know the difference between assumptions and observation?
Like observations are like research, kind of that you've done on your own.
Mm-hmm. How about assumptions?
Like assumptions are what you're assuming to make the assignment easier. Like if you're doing something to do with like a bridge, you assume, well, like without bridge, you like assume that it like abided with like laws that were in place for like building bridges.
Yes, correct. Exactly what Charlie just said. What did you get for your last assignment?
18 or 20.
Okay, yeah, and that explains it. So yes, exactly what Charlie said. Observations are what you see, right? What you see, what you notice when you're doing your research is normally straight from a website, straight from a video, YouTube video, or straight from your task sheet even. Now, assumptions are something you think of, okay? The assumption is what you have to think about, and observation is what you see. So that's the main difference. So, okay, so make sure you document them under 2 separate headings. And you can include as many as you can, but at the end of the day, it must be relevant to what you're doing. So you might include like 10 observations, but at the end, you might cut it down to 5 or 4. Because if you make observation that's like, oh, this country, has very high, income per capita or something, that has nothing to do with your model. You can put it down for fun, but at the end, you have to cut it out. So the trick is to think about, okay, would this observation be used for the model later? And the observation and assumptions are something that you have to keep on going back to.
Like what assumptions would you use for this assignment with like COVID and stuff? So
I can think of potentially one assumption would be, and again, go back and think about it a bit more because this is just on top of my head. But one assumption could be, as the COVID case rises, the vaccines are not available yet. And the vaccines are only available at a later date. So
you'd assume like with the data given, this doesn't include like
there's no outside factor.
Yeah, there's no outside factor, yeah. Only, yeah. Yeah, so that's one thing I can think of on top of my head. Okay, so again, go back and think about assumptions. So note that the assumptions, you can technically share the idea with other people. Just do not ever let them see your assignment. Okay, the only person allowed to see your assignment are 2, maybe 3. You yourself, me, and your teacher. That's it. Alright. If even your friends are, oh, can I just quickly have a look? No, I'll talk you through what I wrote, but I don't have it with me, or I can't share that with you. Okay, it's locked. My tutor locked it and put a password on it. Okay, or whatever you guys want to say. But do not ever give your friend the assignment because not even like okay, the most taboo is you send them your assignment. You don't know what they do with it.
Yeah.
Highlight, copy, paste. It's gone. Your assignment will be flagged as similar, and that's it. Okay. Very strict plagiarism. They're very strict with this because it compromises intellectual property. Yes, Sarah?
Say no in like a low leeway.
I know. Okay. Okay. You don't. That's a very good question because I know as a friend you don't want to offend your friends. The answer is you don't say no. Okay. The answer is you redirect it. They'll be like, oh, can I see your assignment? You'll be like, oh, I don't have it with me, but okay, what do you need help with? Show me your assignment. I can help you with a few points. So tell them what you can do. Yeah. But if it's just like, oh no, I just want to see your assignment. But no, I really can't. I really can't. I just, there's really nothing yet. I'm just having everything. It's really messy. Always use some sort of excuse. Right? Prepare a bunch of excuses. Either you haven't done it yet, or it's very messy. It's just everywhere. But I can explain to you what I'm doing and stuff like that. So always just try to deflect it.
Or fast scroll while you
Is Miranda gonna?
No, it's not Miranda. What happened in like 10.0 is someone in the other class asked me, but like I tried to be like, oh, I can't, but they were like, no, it's fine. I didn't send it to them, but we did get like pretty similar sets. Which I had to then, I had to change my assumptions because they copied exactly what I said.
Oh yeah, so you experienced that.
Just ask him and you go like, oh yeah, so I talked about this here, and then you just keep on scrolling and say one thing for each paragraph. That's right.
Just be careful of them whipping out their phone and take a photo. I have seen that as well. So that's why I'm very desperate. People, when they're desperate, they can do everything. Okay, they really can do everything. So if you really want to help them, it is a tough situation. It's a tough situation. And definitely don't pull out the teacher card. We all know we don't want to pull out the teacher card, don't want to pull out anything that sounds mean. So that's what I'm saying. Like they always deflect it and change the question up. It's like, it's a bit of a sidetrack, but how when people go on talk shows and if the talk show host asks a question that they don't like, they'll be like, oh, do you mean something? Like, how did you handle the breakup? Like, oh, do you mean what I did after that? Oh yeah, after the breakup, I was blah, 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 blah. So they don't talk about how they actually felt about the breakup, for example. It's just like, oh, do you mean all my activities after? Oh yeah, I went on a concert tour. I went to Canada and US, and they're like, wait, what? Did I answer the question? But that's how they deflect away from the question.
Or if they're really annoying, sometimes when Chase or something asks a question, and he'll be like, no, don't write. I just write a quick sentence, and then he leaves. Yeah. One sentence, and then they can do the rest on their own because your sentence is good enough for them to go on.
Or you can put down the points. They would ask, oh, what are the assumptions? You can put down the point, 2 words. Okay? Just put down 1 word and then explain what it is because they most likely won't remember it. It's like if I tell you guys exactly a way to say something and I ask you to repeat it, you probably can't repeat it straight away. Okay? Because the way we think are very, very different. So you can just put down the point and then you talk about it and then put a point and then talk about it. That's what I do a lot of the time to make sure my students get the point, but they explain in all different ways. Okay? So you can do that as well. Many, many ways, but it's gotta definitely the only thing you avoid is to show them your assignment. Again, only 3 people are allowed to see your assignment. 3 official people see your assignment. Yourself, me, and your teacher. That's it. Okay? Not even your friends in this class. Okay? There's no exception. There's no exception. Okay. So moving on, you need a reason and justification. So make sure you have why. So for example, if you put down, let's see the assumption. Oh yeah, the vaccine thing. So it's assumed, or it is assumed that there will be no vaccines available for the model because
it's exponential growth, so then your graph will show a consistent growth.
Yes, because the graph will show a consistent growth, and having vaccines will affect the having to account for the vaccines would change up the model.
It would be an exponential growth one. It'd be just a
something like that. Yeah, that's right. So as long as you put the because and you explain it. If it makes sense to me, it will make sense to your teacher. If I don't think it's good, then most likely your teacher won't think it's good either. Yeah, so that's why I will have to read your assignments and read every single one of my students' assignments. Now, the due date for your assignment to send to me is next week. You have 1 week to send me your first version of your assignment.
First, like finish.
Yes, finish, yes.
Finish.
As much as you can.
Okay.
Okay, remember, the idea is this, right?
I can aim to
You,
get
I've
some.
got 2 drafts due on Friday, Coy. Like,
What for?
For bio and chem.
What's Ken?
Chem's due on Friday, the draft. And then we have 2 weeks.
This
to
Friday?
after. Yes.
I'll be
We've had
right.
it for like.
Yeah, I'll be right.
It's okay, you have Saturday. I'm gonna work on it. Okay, this is week 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally, your draft, your official school draft is here, right? Like 1 week before it's due, isn't it? Or 2?
Like 2, because the teachers have it for like a week, and then we have 1 week once they're like done giving us.
Okay, yeah. So the school draft, they want a final version. So my draft, right? So first, I consider that the first draft is I want to see how much you have done in 1 week. Okay, doesn't need to be complete. Try to complete it. If you can complete it, perfect. I've seen students completing their full assignment in 1 week. Now, in saying complete, you don't need to write everything out properly. I want dot points. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So assumption, you don't even need to like format everything nicely, right? I will assume that you guys will do that later. So the first one, I just want to see what ideas, what content you have put into your assignment, what thoughts, right? And you have to, in 1 week, you have to do all the main things like the regression. For you guys, the exponential regression, watch a video, you have to actually do that. Have the data, graph it in Excel, just put the data and the graph in there and put some table. You can write like table X, right? And then put the name in, and later on you change up the number depending on how many tables you have, right? But have the data, have the content in there. Doesn't need to look pretty. I just want to see what content you've got. Okay? Because if you don't have the content in there in 1 week, there's no way you're gonna get a good draft by the second week. Okay? You need to have a very good draft done by the second week, because after that I will give you guys feedback. You don't need to wait for your teacher's feedback, because if you wait for your teacher's feedback, it's like 1 week of doing nothing. Alright, so I will give you guys feedback almost like immediately. Ideally, I'll try to give it like soon after you guys give it to me, so you have like a bit of time to fix it up, and then when you get your teacher's feedback, then you have another week to fix up even more. So 2 weeks to refine on a completed assignment is the only way to get a really high mark. Okay, if you finish your assignment like here, that's can't help you. Okay, most students that get anything lower than 15 is because they finished like their first draft somewhere in the last week and they have no time to refine it.
Yeah.
Then you will definitely not get anything above 15. 15, you're lucky. It'll be like 12, 13 out of 20. Right? If you want to get higher than 15, like in the 18, 19, 20 mark, you've got to get the first like school draft to be done, like to be almost done. Like the teacher reads it, be like, oh wow, like Sarah is already finished with her assignment, but it's not finished. When you finish it, it's only considered the first like finished draft. There's so much more to refine. I've rarely seen an assignment from a student that is like done by the first draft where I had changed nothing. Right? I've never seen that. Even the one who got 20 out of 20, I still had to change like a few things. Like not much, but there was still a few like grammatical mistakes, spelling errors. Quite a number of spelling errors, and some of the calculation displays looked a bit strange. So I had to fix all of those things up, and then finally we'll be able to get like something like a 20 out of 20. So aim for 20 out of 20.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, next would be mathematical equations and concepts. So you guys will be explaining the equations and concepts, and then talk about the parameters. So for you guys, exponential equation. Okay, and what techniques you will use? Regression. Okay, so essentially so far we've got the exponential equation, and then your exponential regression. So far, I can see that those are the two things that you will be doing, and then the Excel graphing. Again, you don't need to talk too much about it as long as you mention that Excel will be used to create the graph. Yeah, so remember that was a statement. Yeah, Excel will be used to create the graph so that the trends can be analyzed. See, like as long as you give so that, because in order to, okay, we'll use shorter ones like to do something. That part afterwards is the justification, and the justification documentation is everywhere throughout your report. Okay, at any point in time, ask yourself, have I just made a statement without like giving the reason why I'm doing this? If not, then you better put that in. Okay, a strong assignment is when everything is justified and the reader reads to the end is like, oh, that's such a strong argument. I have nothing else to criticize about this. Okay, that's a 20 out of 20 assignment. All right, and that also means if you write a bunch of a report like that, you get a raise at the end of the year in real life. Maybe if you're lucky, if you're in a good company, there are more factors to that. Anyway, so that's you can go back and read the little dot points. I explain more details of what it means. Next would be the solve section. Okay, so I've listed out a bunch of activities you can do. So explain the general steps of the regression, or normally when you're explaining, right, it's like showing, the data is put into the graphics calculator, and then these features are used to create the model, and the final model is whatever.
Is that the methodology?
No, that's a solve. Because in solve you show results. So remember, in formulate you're talking about you're planning, right? Formulate is like planning, right? You're planning on what to do, and then in the solve is when you show results. Show results and actual calculations.
But is that first step the methodology? Is that like explaining the steps you're going to take to solve it?
A little bit, yes. Okay. Yeah, because in formulate you don't talk about details. So okay, let me give you an example. Okay. So in formulate you just mention in the mathematical concepts and techniques you mention exponential regression is a technique that, so you introduce it. Exponential regression is a method to create an exponential model based on a data set. This technique will be used to create the model for the COVID cases in the given country, Guatemala
and Mexico.
Okay, the two sentences I just said out is what you actually wrote in your assignment in the mathematical like concepts and techniques. But that's it. Yeah.
For this one, because there's like a lot of data for it, like it's over 3 years. How would we like put the data, like the raw data in tables, like?
So
to
that's
show in our assignment, because there's like quite a lot of it.
There's quite a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you can show a few rows, and then you can go dot dot dot, and then you show the.
Could you say like this is first year and break the table up?
Yeah, you can do that.
Could you,
Yeah.
like, if you're doing it by month, because it's like, it's not just like for each month. In like the Excel sheet, it's like dates across the year, like a bunch of dates across the year. I think it's like 365 for each of them. Would you just
really? It's like each day.
Yeah,
each day?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Would you just
then
add the totals from like each across like each month, and then?
Yes. Okay, that's a good point. Now, so that means you need to initially process the data. See, this is the time when you actually need to think about what assumptions you're going to make. So, for example, for you, what Charlie's idea, which I think is the reason why I did, is to add up all of the cases, because if it's the case per day, right? You want to add up all the cases, and that will be for that month. And that's what you explain in the mathematical procedures.
Because it wouldn't reset per month, like it would like continue on from that number. So then would you like say like, obviously for the first month, like that's at the end of the month, like that's the total? Would you just do like, is it like the new cases per day is each day, or is it like the total cases per day? Because like say you have.
I need to actually see the data. Okay, yeah. If each day is like the new cases per day, then you have to add them up. If it's total cases up to now, then
that month. But then if you had like January, you had like 1,000 at like the end of January, and then you had at the end of February that was 2,000. Would you like subtract 1,000 and 2,000 to get the total just for that day, just for that month?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, wait. I'm assuming your graph will look something like this. Your graph will be like.
Or do you do it?
So this is time, and this is total. Yeah. So normally you want the total, because if like total out of like a percentage, and the top will be like 100% or something like that. And you have to cut off that.
Percentage increase per day.
Yeah.
It's not per day, because that would be.
If you made it per day, if you did it from the data.
1,000 something points on your graph.
The calculator could do it.
No, you will have to process
the. I'm just.
Yeah, technically it's doable, but anyway. So okay, so the idea is most likely you want it to be like total, so that when the herd immunity is when you find the value like 900% or 0.94.
Yeah.
Right, 0.94, and this would be like 1. Okay, so you find out when it's equals to 0.94, and then this is going to be the when it reaches the herd immunity part thing.
Would you just do like you'd add in like a y value for 0.94?
Yeah.
And then just find it.
And find x, yes, that's right. Yeah. So that's like the calculation is easy, but how do you get this model? That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So based on the data, send me if you want, send me the data. For the data, you can send it on the Discord channel. Okay? It's not technically your assignment. So send it on the Discord channel. Want to see what sort of data you guys see. I can potentially give you guys some ideas of what to do with that data.
Yeah.
Okay, but if it is new cases per day, you have to sum it up. So for example, right, because if you want the total of cases at that point in time to be in the graph, then it means that let's say if you're talking about June, you need to add up January, February, March, April, May, June, add all of them together to get the total cases.
For June, yeah.
For June, yeah. But if you can find like the current total number of cases for that day, that's the best. You don't have to do anything about it. Does that make sense? If you can find that data, that would be the easiest. You don't need to do any processing and no data processing, because in this assignment, the data processing part, you don't get too many marks on it. If you find good data, you don't need to process it, you don't lose any marks at all. Wow. So the marks that you get is from explaining how you do the exponential regression, and then justify. Remember the keywords were over here. Oh, it's on the other one. It's on the task sheet, but it's something about like justifying your model and how good it is when it's reflected in how well it matches the raw data. Okay, so I can tell you guys some ideas on how to do it, but you just gotta actually do that first, and then I'll give you guys some pointers afterwards. Okay, so does it make sense? The solve so far? There is a lot to do. So you see, there is a lot to do. You need to get started like today. Okay, and Charlie, I know you have two more drafts to do. So my recommendation is, do you know what my recommendation would be?
I do not know, Chloe.
Huh?
I do
No?
not know.
Do you not know what my recommendation would be? I think I might have mentioned this. If you have multiple things due at the same time, what do you do when you're studying? So scenario, you're at home. Like, oh my god, I have math, biology, and what was the other one? And chemistry. I have all these things due, and Cole is demanding me to send me his math assignment in like 1 week. That's so unreasonable. How am I going to do that in time? So what do you do?
I don't know.
You alternate between them. Okay? You focus on the high priority ones. For example, let's say biology and chemistry is high priority because it's the actual school draft is due soon. You work on them a little bit. When you're tired, or when you're like, oh, I'm so sick of this, move on to do some math. Okay? Only you know how much you've done for math. Even if writing like 2 lines, 2 paragraphs, it's still something.
I actually haven't even finished the experiment for chem, so I can't really do much for it.
Yeah, then perfect. You only have biology and math then. Then the chem one you're going to do at school. So when you're at home, do some biology, and when you are like, okay, I'm so tired, move on. Because when you switch to a different subject, your brain kind of like refreshes. Go get a drink, and then come back, start with math. Your brain is refreshed. You don't feel as tired anymore. If you work on one thing for too long, your brain feels really tired. Okay, that's just how it works. So switch over. And when you're doing just a bit of math, it can just be like 30 minutes, right? Do a few research here and there. But make sure you set a timer. You gotta focus on those 30 minutes. Don't do anything else but math or whatever biology which you are doing. And then when the timer is up, you can either choose to continue doing that, or you can just, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm gonna do something else.
I have my tree app.
What's your tree app?
It's called Plenty.
What is it for?
It's for studying. And you like set a timer for however long, and then you have to study for that long.
Oh yeah.
But then if you go into another app, then it turns off the timer. And you say start again. And you grow a tree.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. That's actually a cool app. Actually, it's good. Yeah.
Or you can have
Just
one
share
for,
that.
like, for bunnies. But I like the tree one.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Oh, I've seen this one. Yeah, I've seen this one before. That's good. That's a good one. Very, very, very good for studying. Actually, very, very good. So yes, definitely, share that. You guys should get something similar. Use the different version, whatever. But the idea is you set a set time for yourself, and you stick to that.
Don't get distracted.
Don't say that. You stick to it. Remember, the brain doesn't do well with negatives. Okay? If you're like, don't fall, you're gonna fall because the brain thinks fall. Alright? You think stabilize, hold on, work hard, Focus on it. Think on what you want to do. Okay?
Get it done.
Get it done. I'm gonna do math for the next 30 minutes. I'm gonna do math for the next 10 minutes, whatever. Think what you do.
Yeah, I'm so
That's
bad
the
at that, Koi.
Yeah, think about what you do.
learn that I'm so bad.
So you gotta practice.
I'm so good at procrastinating.
He just wants to nap.
Yeah, I'm like an old man, Koi.
Yeah, so focus on what you want to do. Again, as I said, focus on what you want to do. Even if you want to procrastinate by doing something productive. Like for me, in the past when I procrastinate, I went and watch some YouTube videos on my card magic, so I can do a bunch of card magic.
Fair enough.
Now it's fun, it's like it's procrastinating, but it's still
You're learning
productive.
something.
You're learning something, yeah. So be like productive procrastinators essentially. Okay, so all right, so continuing, just a few more points. Yeah, so each type of calculation is explained first and then all the steps are shown. You do not explain bit by bit, like you don't need to go, this is a step and then divide by 15 on both sides. Nobody cares about those things, all right? So for you, it would be something like, let's say the calculations for the 94%, right, herd immunity thing. You'd mention in one paragraph, using the model, the y value is set to be 0.94, and then using the graphics calculator, the x value will be found, and the x value correspond to how, like, the time since since January 2020, and that time will be used to calculate the actual date at which the herd immunity will be reached. So that's a paragraph, and then you show all the calculations below, no more text.
And you like the mathematical equations and concepts. Would you say the exponential growth equation in there?
Yes.
Would you have to explain what each of the variables are for it?
Yes. Yeah. You have to explain the variables, like because depending on what the function you get, which is normally a times e power bx, something like that. Most of the time, you gotta explain what a does, what b does.
Yeah.
Generally,
so that'd be
yeah.
your k and your b is your k.
Yeah, your b is your k, yeah. E power kt or something like that, yeah. Yeah, so you gotta explain the variables in the mathematical concept and procedures, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, all right. Again, there's a lot of information. I'm just throwing it at you guys, so hopefully you guys remember about 50%. Maybe hope if you have learned most of this before 80%. But you gotta start on the assignment. Without seeing an actual assignment, I can't give you detailed feedback. Okay, so you gotta start on the assignment. Okay, so next would be if you do any further calculations on the method already, then you don't need to explain the method again. But I don't think it applies to you guys. You only have one country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what you can do though is you might I'm not sure how the regression method will work, but if you can produce different models, basically different equations to model that, then you can be like, for each equation, you calculate the time that herd immunity is reached.
And you should get the same value.
You will never get the same value. You get similar values.
Have different equations.
Yeah, again, each model, right? Each model is slightly different. Because they're slightly different, the final result will be slightly different.
But then, out of the three, you'd go, this one's more accurate based on
Based on what?
right,
And that's what you have to make a decision
Based
on.
on the raw data, but
it's certainties.
so you're saying that me and Charlie, because we both got Guatemala, we would get different equations?
It depends on how you process the data. It could be different equations, yeah. Because for example,
I
right?
have a feeling we'd get the same country.
Do you reckon they did it so if we cheated?
Yeah, that could be the case, yeah.
Everybody has a double up. There's a set amount of countries and there's a set amount of people in a class.
Yeah, that's more likely
But
the
I
main
just
reason.
have this sense that we were going to get the same country.
Interesting. What are the chances? But that's especially dangerous for you guys because you guys will do very, very similar things. Okay, so
Corey, you want to try and cheat off me?
hey, yeah, Blake, you can. Okay, what do I want to say? So your graph will be different because, for example, right, one graph could be time as a date of the year. So for example, January could be like January 2020. So the t value is 2020 plus 1/12. Does it make sense? So the actual date and then the month is the it's 1/12, right? And then June will be 6/12, right? So that would be an actual 2020 point something. So if you use that as the t value, then the model, the variables will be completely different as opposed to use the t value as the number of months
Yeah, like
since
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
certain
So
point.
would you do like, if you were doing it, would you do like certain, you do one as like doing like 2020 plus like the fractions and stuff, and then one as like total like values like for the months, and then see which one's like more accurate, and then like.
You could try that, but my recommendation is start with one. So the other models, if you have time, then get to them. If you don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one that I normally recommend is choose a starting date, and t is the number of months after that starting date.
Yeah.
And the starting date is dependent on your model. But
Yeah.
I guess for COVID, normally it will be about the same.
So like, for like your starting date, would you do like the 31st of January, because that shows like.
Yeah. You could do
maybe
31st of
do,
January
like,
or
the
anything.
first,
Or the 1st of January. It literally could be anything.
because it has to start at like the origin at like 0.
Yes. Well, the model doesn't have to start at the origin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just need to define what does it mean for your origin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the t-value could be, if your origin is, let's say, January of 2000, right? Then in January 2020, it will be 20 times, 12 months is like 360. So the first t-value is 360. That's quite far away. So you might want to do that. So you might want to find the first, the 0 is the January of, say, 2018, before COVID started. So the graph doesn't actually start there, sort of, because it doesn't make sense, right? There's no COVID in 2018, right? So that's why you can also talk about the model only starts when t equals to something, or most likely, depending on when your first data point is, that's your 0. Yeah. If your first data is February 2019 or July 2019, then that is what I would put as the starting point.
So it's like the graph is starting at like this point, as it's like when COVID cases are like equal to 0.
Yeah. And
then like the first point that is like relevant to data is like the month of January, because that's like an actual value instead of just 0.
Yeah. So there are many ways. That's what I'm saying. Even if you get the same country, your graphs will be quite different depending on how you define it. Okay. Evaluate. We'll get to this later. Go back and read it. Okay. There's nothing much for me to really go through until you've got some stuff in your assignment. And conclusion write last. Introduction, conclusion. Obviously you write last, but introduction you also write last.
Yeah.
Just get straight to the formula and solve these. Those are the things that I care about. I don't even care about your introduction at this point. It's going to be different anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So again, that sheet has the checklist. That's why I put it as a checklist. So before you finish your final submission, you read through everything. Like, do I have this? Do I have documentation? Yep. What thing I do? Put a tick. And then, do I have all the strengths are different from limitation? Yeah, they're all different. Put a tick. Yeah. So at the very end, you have to make sure you tick through everything and you have covered everything. That's when you know that there's nothing else you really can do. At least not within my field of my knowledge. Okay. There's nothing else I can think of for you to do for your assignment. Okay. All right. And that sheet is your secret sauce from ATAR Academy. Okay, so be very careful sharing this sheet with your friends. Because it is proprietary material from ATAR Academy. Yes, you can give them some tips here and there, just don't send them the whole sheet, please. I don't want that to suddenly be taken up by a teacher and just get circulated within the school. Even though I do improve on the sheet every year. Every year is a little bit different. What you guys are seeing is an improved version of last year's sheet. So it'll never be the same. But anyway. Okay, so yes, that's it. Let's take a short break. So Blake, what you missed is basically do not share this sheet like publicly to everyone. It is proprietary material.
Share this sheet.
Yeah, that checklist there.
Your devised work. That is your work.
Yes, that is correct.
And they're not paying for your work.
No. And if you give it to a teacher, well, most likely they're gonna copy it and then just take that.
And give away your genius toy.
It's not even my genius. Actually, I take that from like many schools' sheets and stuff and combine into one. So yes, I do compile a lot of resources in order to produce that one. Okay, that should be good for now. Let's take a short break.